All right, let's get right into it. The big question on everyone's mind is not if AI is going to change the IT services industry, but just how big of an earthquake this is really going to be. Are we watching the end of an era or just the messy beginning of a new one? Let's figure it out.
You want to know why everyone's freaking out? Just follow the money. This isn't some small change. This is the amount of market value that Indian IT giants lost in just 10 days. When that much money disappears that fast, well, people get scared. And suddenly that big question becomes very, very urgent.
And right now, it feels like the whole conversation is trapped between two extremes. You've got the doomers on one side, basically saying the sky is falling and AI is going to wipe out the entire industry. And on the other side, you've got the deniers who are kind of plugging their ears and saying, nope, this is all just hype, nothing's really going to change. But here's the thing, they're both wrong.
So, to really get a handle on this, let's first break down what we're even talking about. What's actually at stake here?
Okay, it's really important we're clear on who we mean. We are not talking about product companies like Google. We're talking about the service giants. You know the names: TCS, Infosys, Wipro, Accenture. For decades, their business model has been incredibly simple. The more people or headcount they put on a project, the more money they make. Simple as that. And the sheer scale here is it's mind-boggling. This isn't some small niche sector. In India alone, it's $250 billion industry. It employs more than 5 million people and makes up almost 8% of the entire country's GDP. I mean, for a whole generation, getting a job at one of these companies wasn't just a job, it was the ticket. It was the path to the middle class. So yeah, when this industry starts to shake, millions and millions of people feel the tremors.
Which, of course, brings us to the question that's probably on your mind, the one that really matters to people. What's going to happen to all the jobs?
So let's just ask it directly. No beating around the bush. Is this technology going to lead to massive layoffs? The answer is yes. A clear, simple yes. Look, this isn't some future prediction anymore. It's already happening. And this is where the real pain of this whole transition is going to be felt. So how does this actually work in the real world? Let's make it super simple. Imagine you've got a project with 100 developers. Now, you bring in AI tools, coding assistants, that sort of thing, and bam, all of a sudden your team is 30 to 40% more productive. Well, what happens then? To get the same amount of work done, you don't need 100 people anymore. You might only need 65 or 70.
So what happens when you take that small example and you scale it up across an entire industry that employs millions? Even a conservative estimate, we're suddenly looking at an impact on over 1 million jobs. And that's not just a number on a spreadsheet. That's a massive, massive shift in the workforce. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't some guy on the internet making wild guesses. This is coming from Niti Aayog. That's the Indian government's own official think tank. They're the ones forecasting a significant drop in headcount over the next decade. Okay, I know that all sounds pretty bad, right? Fewer jobs, maybe a lot fewer jobs. So does that mean the entire industry is just gonna collapse? Well, not so fast. There's another side to this story. I mean, it seems like the next logical question, right? If you need 30% fewer people to do the work, then your revenue should also fall by 30%. So is it game over for these companies? The answer, surprisingly, is no. And this is the part of the story that most people are getting completely wrong. Understanding this is the key to seeing the real future here, not the one the doomers or the deniers are trying to sell you. This quote just cuts right to the heart of it. I mean, seriously, think about it. Is a massive bank going to rip out its entire incredibly complex core banking system, something that's been built and tweaked over decades, and just replace it with an AI chatbot? Of course not. No way. These systems are the absolute lifeblood of global business. AI will make them better, but it's not going to just replace them. So that's reason number one. The core work isn't going anywhere. Then you've got these long-term contracts that are already locked in, which gives these companies a huge financial cushion. Plus, remember, not all IT work is just about writing code. A massive part of it is consulting, strategy, navigating complex regulations, things that still really need a human brain. And here's the kicker, and it's kind of ironic. All this new AI stuff, someone has to actually implement it. So the demand for new kinds of IT services is actually going to go up. So what does all this add up to? It means the industry isn't dying, not by a long shot. But it is changing in a very fundamental way. It's shifting from an era of thriving to an era of just being steady.
Think of it like a big game of tug-of-war. On one side, you have AI and clients pushing for lower costs, which pulls revenue down. But on the other side, you have this huge, pent-up demand for new tech projects and for help implementing AI, and that's pulling revenue right back up. These two massive forces are kind of canceling each other out.
And this chart shows you the result. The stock market isn't pricing in the death of these companies. It's pricing in the end of an era. The past was this amazing, consistent 8 to 10% growth year after year. The future? It looks a lot flatter. Maybe low single-digit growth, maybe even stagnation for a bit.
This really is the simplest way to think about it. For the last 20 years, this industry was a rocket ship. It was all about thriving. It was a growth machine. The next decade is going to be different. It's going to be steady. It will survive. But that explosive, almost easy growth, that's over. That chapter is closed. Okay, let's bring it all home. What's the bottom line here? If you only remember a few things from this explainer, what should they be? First, the IT services industry is not dying. But second, the glory days of easy 10% annual growth are well and truly over. Third, yes, we should expect to see maybe 5 to 10% fewer jobs over the next 5 years, especially in those entry-level coding and testing roles. And finally, those tech jobs aren't just vanishing into thin air. They're shifting, moving away from these giant service companies and into new AI startups and product companies.
So at the end of the day, here's what it all comes down to. The industry is facing a massive, massive shift, and it will adapt. It has to. Which leaves us with a much more personal question. The industry is adapting? Are you?